Listen, a win is a win, and Ole Miss won 10 regular season games, but there was some issues about that football game. So while we're happy, we need to at least have a conversation about that first half. This is the Locked On Ole Miss podcast.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi, I'm Stephen Willis, and I'm Thanos from Twitter, apparently, because everybody gets mad because I make predictions, because that's just what I do. Everybody here knows that. But anyway, I'm Stephen Willis, and I'm likely the only person that you're going to hear from today that has held an office in the Manning Center and worked at Yahoo Sports in the national media. Thank you for joining us. Today on the show, we're going to talk about what we just saw. We saw a very uninspired offensive performance. Got a couple of messages during the game that I'll relay that might be problematic. But Ole Miss was able to put together a couple of drives, get the win 17-7, and take the golden egg, win the 10th game. They're in line for the lowest possible place they can go is the Citrus Bowl, and the New Year's Six is still in play. So we will worry about that in just a second. As I mentioned, I'm Stephen Willis, and this is the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team, every single day. We're free and available on all podcast apps and YouTube. Thank you for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. Pretty awesome. Like I said, Ole Miss a 17-7 winner over Mississippi State. And let's look at the stats real quick. Bring this up, and there's certain things that I have to turn off. There we go. Here's the stats from the game. If you look at it, Jaxson Dart, 14-26, 96 yards, 1 touchdown. Jackson's not right. I don't know what exactly is going on, but Jaxson is not right. Now, tough as nails. He's a tough dude, but I think he's more hurt than we were let on. And Jordan Rogers showed against Louisiana Monroe, him actually handing off right-handed, and some of his passes were a little bit off tonight. He did have the nice hide route play action pass to Caden Prescorn for basically the put-away touchdown that I think I called either Tuesday or Wednesday and said that if Ole Miss did this, it would be wide open because how aggressive that Mississippi State was going to play. And that turned out to be absolutely the case. So that play, Jaxson Dart, 14-26, 96 yards, and a touchdown. Sorry, I got a tick on my throat. The big star of the night was probably Quinshon Judkins. 28 carries, 119 yards, and a touchdown. His 13th or 15th touchdown on the season. I think he has 31 for his career. If he gets 2 in the bowl game, he'll break the record that he broke last year as well. Really interesting. J.J. Pegues with a big put-away play at the end of the game. Mississippi State offensively, they ended up getting over 300 yards total offense, but this is another situation where Pete Golding just smothers mid to bad offenses, and that happened. That's the reason I was so confident what was going on. It would have taken a bust, much like the Louisiana game, for Mississippi State to score. Once it got to 2 scores, this game was over, especially after he missed that field goal to where you take slipping down off the table. You know, Woody Marks had 39 yards, and after that, they didn't do much. Will Rogers, 25-39, 207 yards. I give Mississippi State credit. Whenever I talked during the week, I said there was probably one way that Mississippi State could keep this close, and they mucked it up and did what they needed to do. And, you know, Greg Knox got the first 5 minutes of energy and created the second 5 and the third 5. And next thing you know, it's halftime and you're in the middle of a dogfight. Ole Miss ended up with 22 first downs. They were only 4 of 16 on third down. They had a total of 307 yards, 96 yards passing. Like I said, Jaxson didn't quite look right. Quinshon led the way as Ole Miss ran for 211. That was the difference in the game. Ole Miss in time of possession was able to close out like the last 5 minutes of the game. Their time of possession was at 31:57. So it kind of is what it is. So that's the situation with Ole Miss. They've got the golden egg. They're taking it back to Oxford. They won the game. And the most important thing about this game is winning the game. Everything else, the style points, now you probably need Arkansas to win the game. You probably need Kentucky to win the game. You're probably rooting for Michigan State. We'll talk about that in a minute. You didn't get the style points in this game. Ole Miss needed to come out and look really good. State kind of mucked up the gears to where they were able to perform during the ball game. Like I said, once Ole Miss made it 17-7, it was very little chance that Mississippi State was coming back. They scored the touchdown, good for them, but at the end of the day, they were kind of overmatched against the Mississippi State offense, against the Pete Golding defense. Pete Golding just feasted off of that offense, and you have a situation to where Ole Miss was just able to win the game because Mississippi State was not going to be able to put enough plays together to score enough points to do what you needed to do. It's just the truth if you want to believe something like that. Let's look over in the chat and start that going what's on. Let's see. James Mendoza, Dart has guts, but we need him healthy for next year. Yeah, it definitely. He needs to slide more often. That hit he took, that targeting hit, that was a borderline cheap shot from Mississippi State designed to remove an Ole Miss quarterback from the game. That was Chuck Cecil crown of the helmet. That was a dirty, dirty hit, and I was actually shocked that Jaxson Dart came back as quickly as he did. But after he did, Ole Miss's offense was different. That kind of woke them up. Blake Pierce, I'm ready to react, boys. Yes, bring it on, Blake. We were atrocious offensively in the first half. Can we just say that? This offense was atrocious in the first half. The play calling was arrogant and predictable and all the things that are the worst case scenarios of what we can do. And remember, we're having this conversation as a 10-win team. So obviously it's not been horrible, but that first half was rough, man. That first half was real rough. Joshua Triplett had to switch the game to the TV to my phone because I'm not superstitious, but I'm a little stitious. I agree with that, Joshua. I moved before Ole Miss's first touchdown, I moved from the living room back to my studio into my office because I am also a little bit stitious. Scorcho Gray, hi. I was one of the ones on Twitter saying a tad too soon, and I want one more, but I was feeling it too. Honestly, I'm going to be real with everybody here. Now, everybody knows how it happened, and they have the benefit of hindsight. But when Ole Miss had the ball and was driving up 17-7, like that very next drive, I think they got a holding penalty. One of those dreaded holding penalties that stopped a drive. They were about to drive down the field and turn that into a boat race. That wasn't something I just made up. It was obvious. It was a holding penalty that stopped a drive. And then after that, it just kind of kept getting mucked up. But State was never going to score 10 points in the last 6 minutes of that ball game. Jacob Holloway, it's fire Charlie Weis Jr. season. It was a horrible, horrible, horrible game plan. Now, I got a call at halftime. And somebody talking about, what was happening is like, hey, just so you know, they just got a phone call from somebody. I don't want to name names. And they said, this is what's happening on those holding penalties and stuff like that. This is why this is standing out. And we need to fix that. And I'm like, hey, if the play calling doesn't get better, it's not going to matter what we do. We were really close, and one slip by a defensive back away from it being the worst upset in the history or in the last 40 years of this Egg Bowl rivalry. That was on the table. And then Ole Miss kind of put it back together, drove down the field, and retained the lead after it was 7-3, and it became 10-7, and then it became 17-7. And at that point, it was over. It just was. James Mendoza, I think we covered the spread. It depends. I've seen it at 10. If you have it at 10, it's a push. But most of the time, I think it's at 10.5 or 11, something like that. It did not cover. Mark Walsh, ugly win. Glad we won, but not impressive on the large stage. Yeah, Ole Miss now needs help. They need help from Arkansas. They need help from Kentucky. They need help from Michigan State, or else the Ole Miss is going to be playing in the Citrus Bowl. But hey, Citrus Bowl is 50 miles from my house. I'm okay with that. I don't even have to get a hotel to go to that game. So I'm pretty okay with that. Chris Wilson said, happy Thanksgiving, Stephen. Hotty toddy. That was a heck of a game. I thought Dart was knocked unconscious for a moment. Your thoughts? I am genuinely shocked that Jaxson Dart was back in that game. And I don't know if it was a head injury or anything like that. It was just something that it looked so bad that I was just surprised. I was like, okay, here we go. Spencer Sanders game. And then Dart came back in, and it's like a switch flipped. I got a call also at halftime that said, hey, I had talking to a couple of parents of players. They said that Ole Miss might have been too hyped up in the first half. I don't know if I believe this. I'm just letting everybody know that Ole Miss might have been too hyped up in this game, and that caused them to play a little bit off-putting and maybe play a little bit arrogant as well. But we'll see what's up with that. I am a Mississippi State fan and disappointed. NBM, you should be. You performed very well. You did everything you could do to win this game. Everything was set up to do it. You just didn't have enough to get it done. And Ole Miss did not take the opportunity to separate that was there. This is a game that should have looked like the 2008 game. I'm just being real about it. And that should have been the goal. That is a missed opportunity. But Lane Kiffin has won 3 out of 4 against Mississippi State. The one time that he didn't was a 2-point conversion play to tie at the very end. Lane Kiffin in this rivalry has done very well indeed. Rex Thompson, I agree. Dart is hurt more than we thought. Yeah, something is not right, but we have time to get him right, honestly, until the Citrus Bowl or the New Year's Six or something like that. Mark Walsh, the play calling was atrocious. Absolutely horrible. I thought in the first drive of the game, they were doing a good job of attacking the space outside away from Nathaniel Watson and Jet Johnson, okay? They were making them go side to side. I think that was going to be important. But whenever they would do that, the next play would have been an inside zone right up the middle, directly into the teeth of the Mississippi State defense. And all of a sudden you end up in 3rd and longs, and Ole Miss doesn't do well on 3rd and long. They don't. A lot of that is because when they're really rolling, it's first down, second down, first down, second down, first down, first down. That's the way it looks. So if it gets to 3rd down, that's usually like a 3rd and 14, a holding call, something like that. And this game, there was just 3rd and 7 and longer. There was not staying on schedule. The offense just looked atrocious. It really did. It was ugly. It was the definition of an ugly win. But a win is a win, as Michael Papernick says, even if it was ugly. Also, be sure and let me know where you're watching from on the stream. I'll get to that, and once it gets down to the bottom, let me know where you're watching this stream from, along with the comments that you might have. Ole Miss got the win. That is the most important part of this rivalry. 10 wins is a big, big deal that should not be undersold, and nobody should take the critiques that I have of that game as me downplaying the fact that they won 10 ball games. Although that will probably happen. That traditionally happens. Do we have any depth on the O-line? We do. I just don't know if we have. We're at the point where at different parts of the game, you were down Micah Pettis and Jaden Williams, 2 offensive linemen. So 2 of your top 6 linemen are out, and Reese McIntyre is playing right guard, who normally is the backup center. Caleb Warren goes back to center. So they were doing some makeshift type stuff. But the problem wasn't necessarily the offensive line. The problem was the fact that they just refused to protect them. if you have a problem with the offensive line and you know double A gap blitzes are coming and you know that Watson is a heck of a pass rusher, I think he's leading the SEC in sacks. If you know that that is the case, why aren't you doing things to protect your offensive line? Either through the quick game, the win routes, the little things like that. Why aren't you doing that? You can't drop back and say, okay, I need 2.5 seconds, make it happen. That's arrogant play calling. It just is. And like I said, I get that they won 10. I get that. But a lot of the difference between LSU and Alabama, for instance, this season was the fact that they were willing to protect the offensive line. They knew that they were about to go up against athletes again. Harold Perkins was going to get after the quarterback. So they used quick game and they used the tight end and they used ways to torture linebackers so that they could just open them. They didn't do that against Alabama. Alabama ate. LSU did not. I get that Alabama's defense is better than LSU, but the athletic players are the same. Ole Miss, whenever they have honestly arrogant play calling, whenever they get overconfident necessarily what they're doing and think that they can just drop back, they decide that they're going to go back and try and hit explosive plays and score touchdowns every play, when sometimes gaining 6 yards per play needs to be enough. That's just my thoughts on that. Joshua Triplett, this was a great defensive highlight reel for the 20th anniversary, but my God, it was hard to watch the first half. That was rough. If we keep playing like this, our bowl game, we won't fare well off there. Yeah, you can't play that game. There's honestly nothing from the end of this season that can go into the bowl game unless you allow it to. Because Ole Miss will not play a football game likely in the month of December. And if they do, it'll be like December 29th. So I just don't think. I think they need to come into it and realize that you're going to play either the Iowa defense that is potentially the best defense in the country, or in the New Year's 6 where you have athletes all over the place. I think you're going to see a better game plan. And also Jaxson Dart's going to have time to get healthy because he's obviously not right. 20 years from now, it won't matter. That's right. It's a W. Last year's Egg Bowl was in Dart's head tonight. And Dart played actually pretty well. He was 30 for 38 in a monsoon last year. Dart played pretty well last year. That was what kind of springboarded him into this year. He's going to jump next year. He's going to be fine. He did not have a good night. Like I said, I don't think he was right. And can we talk about something real quick in the first half when we couldn't move the ball? Trey Harris had one target. One. Your best receiver, your best weapon, potentially offensively, besides Quinshon Judkins, one target. Now, I get that you're having trouble blocking, but why aren't you doing these short hitch stuff that later on in the game they started to do? That seems to be a repertoire that should be a go-to every game. Let's get the ball in Trey's hand as much as we can. I know that Quinshon's there, but get the ball in Trey's hand as well. That's one thing that I noticed in the game. Jackson will have plenty of time to heal in the bowl game. Trace Buffkin says, yes, he will, absolutely. Dart is tough for sure. Caleb Ozeburn. Dart is amazingly tough. He might be the toughest quarterback that Ole Miss has had since Tom Luke. It's just amazing how tough this kid is. Just absolute nails. Custom Craft Off-Road Adventures. I like that name. Hotty Toddy. Tough win from Dardanelle, Arkansas. The Dardanelles. That feels like a World War II term. Maybe they're in France. Curious. James Hall says, not a great game, but a win. Hotty Toddy. But a great win because Ole Miss is 10-2. Like I said, people need to separate the fact that Ole Miss did not play well through 75% of that football game with the fact that Ole Miss won their 10th game. And it's at the end of the season. Nothing is going to carry over. You're going into a bowl game. Now we get to watch football and react to that as well. Jeff Ferguson, Ole Miss has lost their offense since Georgia. Honestly, let's be real for a second, and nobody's going to talk about this, but let's be real about this. Ole Miss kind of did the same thing they did last year. Think about it. After the Alabama game, to where you put so much into it and you lost that game, the next 2 weeks, the team didn't look right. Now, we blamed it on Lane. And I will probably continue to blame that on Lane because Ole Miss lost the games. Ole Miss won games this year, games that they lost a year ago. But they still weren't right. They still didn't play well. Really interesting stuff. Caleb Osborne, we look terrible on offense. Absolutely atrocious. Atrocious. That's game film to just throw away, honestly. It's rough stuff. Predictable play calling is an understatement. Yeah, it's arrogant play calling, I think. It's arrogant play calling. That's the problem. They think they have so much better people that whoever's in the game, they can do their shot plays that they do. They have been asleep, but they still won. I hope Bentley is okay. It looked like he probably might have hurt his ribs. I don't know that for the case, but that looked like the genuine error. He took a pretty good shot, but I think he will be eventually okay. Play calling, Willis says, play calling is handicapping Ole Miss. States was blitzing the linebackers every single play, and we never had one shallow crosser to attack it like we did against A&M. Finding a play caller should be a top priority. I don't think it's going to happen. Honestly, anybody that wants Charlie Weis gone, I don't think it's going to happen. I just don't, because sure, there's some games that happen like this, but it's kind of hard to fire an offensive coordinator after a 10-2 season. Just my thoughts there. Jeff Ferguson says, seems like Ole Miss since Georgia has given up. Not necessarily given up. They've won both games. They won 10 this year. They just didn't do the style points that we all wanted. Jacob Holloway is the Corey Franklin on the team. I think he's on the team. He's not playing because he's trying to preserve his red shirt. And if it doesn't look like he can come back, he'll probably be competing for a job next year at Ole Miss. Either that or he can go down to, I don't know, Incarnate Word and just ball. Roy Libera, glad we won. Disappointed in the effort. Yeah, it was enough. Like I said, Mississippi State just wasn't good. They weren't. People are going to say that game was on Ole Miss. Am I right that saying that there was no excuse to losing to Mississippi State? That absolutely would be the case. And Ole Miss did not lose to Mississippi State. Play calling was atrocious, and that needs to get fixed. We'll talk to Bill Flowers next week, and I'm sure that he is going to have opinions on the play calling as well. Scorcher Gray, I have a story about my superstitions tonight that is way too long to type, but damn, y'all owe me for all I had to go through. You're welcome, Rebs. Sorry, I'm having a drink. I've got a tickle in my throat. In the first half, Dart had 2 third downs, 1 3rd and 4, and 1 3rd and 5, where we had a guy running wide open across the middle, and Dart had the ball. Inexplicable. Yeah, Jaxson Dart was not right. I think he was more not right than any of us know. And as the season goes, like I said, Ole Miss is 10-2, and we're going to watch games, and I'm going to be on tomorrow afternoon with Tom Vanderford. We're going to continue to do another reaction to this video tomorrow. And this will be the morning show. So if you're watching this right now, you don't have to wake up at 7 in the morning. It's going to be this one. But we are at 7 o'clock tomorrow night going to be talking to Tom Vanderford and reacting to this game. And he's going to be, honestly, at that point, by the time I talk to him, we'll know if Missouri won the game and how that looks as well. So that is interesting to me. I'm afraid in the bowl game, they'll be flat. They shouldn't be. They shouldn't be. Doesn't matter where Ole Miss goes, they get a fantastic bowl game. And the defense they're going to play is legit, and that is going to get Lane up. It's going to be fine. Texas Tech flashbacks, accept the loss. But like I said, a bowl game, I do not expect them to come out flat. No, you can't get me to do that. A win is a win. Trust Coach Kiffin. I do trust Coach Kiffin, but we can talk about how we felt in the first half as well. So yeah, I do trust Coach Kiffin. It's 10-2. It's 2 10-2 teams in 3 years. Yeah, I trust him absolutely. We're in basically a B+ version of the Ole Miss Glory days. The lack of obvious holding calls against State was maddening. Yeah, it really was. Nathan Hester says, I'm so glad we got the Egg Bowl trophy back, 10-2 going to bowl game, and then Bulldogs are now left licking their butts, leaving it a bad taste in their mouth all year. Yeah, State was not bad. Eads Hogue, Stephen, I think something is wrong with Jackson's throwing arm. It's not his throwing arm. It's his non-throwing arm. But if you think about it, whenever you throw and what he's doing, there's movement that causes that to move as well. So it's not going to be 100% healthy as well. But it's not this shoulder. If it's this shoulder, Spencer Sanders would be in the game. It's this shoulder. Too bad Ole Miss can't get it up since the Georgia loss. Yeah, but they're still winning. Ben Harris, Dart is as tough as nails. Like I said, I think he's the toughest quarterback that has played at Ole Miss since Tommy Luke. And if anybody my age remembers Tom Luke, knows what I'm talking about. Our O-line went from the line of our strongest units to maybe the worst. The Citrus Bowl might be better for us anyway. The O-line, just because they're playing tackles and everybody moved out of position, they're doing patchwork. Jaden Williams will be back for the bowl game. That'll help at the tackle position. That'll move Jeremy James back to guard. That'll move Quincy McGee will continue to be at left guard, and then you'll have Caleb Warren at center. So it'll be pretty close to the unit that started the Georgia game. So I expect them to be back. And I'm all for the Citrus Bowl. There's lots of teams and lots of ways it can go, but the Citrus Bowl is big for me because it's 50 miles from my house. And it allows me to go to that game and do things there, and also do the Under Armour All-American game, which is January 3rd, to where Braylon Burnside is actually announcing his intentions. That's a pretty big deal for Ole Miss fans, and all of the Ole Miss beat writers and media are going to be around for that week. Yeah, I think for Ole Miss fans, there's a lot of coverage that you can get from that game, if that makes sense. Joshua Triplett, have coaches just been trying to get Dart help to help the team get to the chalk the last few games while getting back to 100% for next year? I don't know if it's that. I think there's just no way that Jaxson Dart was coming out of the game. I think a normal quarterback, maybe Jaxson doesn't play, even against Louisiana Monroe, which Jaxson may not have needed to play against Louisiana Monroe. But Ole Miss made it through it 10-2. I predicted 9-3, so I do want to apologize to Rebel Nation for underestimating how good this football team could be. But I had them in whenever I did W's and L's back in, I don't know, in August, in July. I had them at 9-3. So I was wrong about that. I do want to apologize to people. Mike Biggs, there were plays where Dart sat back and had plenty of time to survey the field, but didn't throw the ball. Why couldn't our receivers get open? I thought their DBs are not very good. There were receivers running open. Like I said, Dart did not have his best day. And there's no sense piling on him. I think it was an injury thing more than anything else. But there were some open players that got missed today. If this is what Ole Miss brings to the bowl game, they'll lose. OC has to go. I'm tired of the lame play calling. Ole Miss is 10-2. OC is not going anywhere, and the bowl game's a month away. J. Keith Garner, Dart looked hobbled, and that's being generous. Yeah, I'm telling you, Dart's a tough dude. A tough dude. We won the game and kept them from a winning season. Jay Cannon says that. Ole Miss absolutely did that. And you're in a situation where Mississippi State isn't going to be able to go to a bowl game like they did with 3 wins a couple of years ago, because you need 3 teams needed for bowl games for Mississippi State to even have the opportunity, because the number 1 team will be James Madison. The number 2 team will be Jacksonville State, because the only way that they can go to a bowl game is in that 5-7 APR rule. If there's not enough, all of a sudden they will get their waiver and get to go play in a bowl game. So you would need 3 teams that are not eligible to go and not able to fill their spot for Mississippi State to even have that option. Mike Biggs, I meant not supposed to be. Custom Craft Off-Road Adventures, we run Hotty Toddy. Yes, 10-2 for the second time in 3 years, going to the Citrus Bowl, which Ole Miss fans have never done. Orlando is awesome. Disney is fantastic, as everybody knows that follows my show. I'm a big Disney person. So that's what it is. Gary Rasco, that was a nail biter. That was a nail biter until it was 17-7. Once it was 17-7, it was pretty over. Sick and tired of Kiffin being referred to as an offensive genius. Time to stop that. Lane Kiffin is trying to learn how to coach with a good defense. I mean, he's having to learn how to do that. So everybody needs to kind of be aware of what's going on there. James Mendoza says he's watching from Tupelo, Mississippi. From the Poconos, J. Keith Garner in Pennsylvania. Jeff Ferguson, Ole Miss needs to turn their thoughts into being in the top 10 after the bowl game win from Pontotoc. Maybe. Like I said, if Arkansas comes out and plays an inspired way, after we saw what Missouri played with last week, and usually teams do not win games that Ole Miss needs them to win. Nobody helps Ole Miss for whatever reason. We've seen that. But it is a situation that we've seen what Arkansas can play like on senior night in Fayetteville, Arkansas. So we'll pay attention to that. Trace Buffkin says he's from Senatobia, Mississippi. Fatal says, I'm not really impressed by our performance, especially by Dart. He didn't play good. Judkins played good, but Dart is going to have to play good in a bowl game and have to throw the ball. Yeah, like I said, I think Dart's hurt. I think Dart played hurt, which in that case, like I said, why? I understand, but you have Spencer Sanders and you dropped all that money for a reason, right? You dropped all that money for a reason. And that is a weird thing to me. Nathan Hester watching from Boonville, Mississippi. Caleb Osborne, Tupelo, Mississippi area. Joshua Triplett, Kay and I are watching from Utah. Hey, if y'all want to coach the team, go apply for the job as long, or if not, stop complaining. We're not complaining. We're talking for real, Ben. We're not complaining. We're 10-2, but there was a problem tonight, and everybody knows there was a problem tonight. And this is a game that we were hoping that Ole Miss would win 45-0. They did not. We will continue to do that. Honestly, Ben, you're probably lucky we're not going harder than we are. Reed Shoemaker says he's from Saltillo. J. Keith, Mount Pocono, Pennsylvania. Bentley looked like he had his ribs nicked up with injuries in the staff. Who knows? But he did not come back in the game that I saw. That was an ugly game. It was a W, though. It was a W. And as long as you win, an ugly game is acceptable because Ole Miss just won its 10th game for the first time in a long time. Steve and I have suffered 10 strokes and 5 heart attacks. First half, I'm like, what the heck is going on? And you know what? You're right. We all were. The offense, it was atrocious play calling. The play calling is the least creative I've seen in the SEC against the SEC. I would agree. It was very, very predictable in this game. It was weird. Third quarter, I took my shoes off to expose my Quinshon Judkins socks from Dead Soxy, by the way, Dead Soxy. Dead Sox, he does a fantastic job. And all of a sudden, Ole Miss took off. Yeah, the same thing. After Mississippi State scored, I went into the studio to watch the game. Other people did other stitious things, and you were able to pull off the win. So thank you very much, Jim, for doing that. Edward Hudgens from Silver Point, Tennessee. Jim Lovings from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Good for you, Jim. Jake Mitchell, does Perkins even play for us? I told everybody before the season started, how much Perkins does is how much he's able to do. And once everybody started game planning for 4, his role had to get smaller because otherwise you were hurting yourself. And then you have players like Ladarius Tennyson and those guys showing up, Kari Coleman, that could make plays at linebacker. You're going to see Perkins get better. And next year, he's going to be one of the dudes on this defense with TJ Dudley. Captain Jim, Tupelo, but an unsuccessful running game. Still running the same play back to back. Yeah, that's a tempo thing. Just kind of is what it is. I give credit to State's defense. They punched us in the mouth. QJ owned the second half. Hey, Quinshon had a day running the football. That kid ran hard, really hard. And nobody needs to even slander QJ even a little bit. Hotty Toddy from Iuka, Mississippi, from Paul Patrick. Thank you very much for watching. Iuka, we really need to look at our OC. Jaxson was hurt worse than we realized. Too much to the list to add tonight. Yeah, but we still made it to the bowl game, and we're still kind of where we want to be. Hey, Driftwood, you can't say that. We don't play for a month. Literally. That's like saying the opening game next season is going to be a problem. You just can't say that. The offense now is going to change so much over the course of a month. It's not even fair to talk about that. And I have to imagine they're going to be pretty motivated going into that game. I'm thinking Citrus Bowl with Iowa would be a good game, and watching Hotty Toddy from Dothan, Alabama. Thank you, Chris93, for that. I like I said, I'm pro Citrus Bowl. I want Ole Miss fans to get to the New Year's Six just because of the prestige that comes with saying that you were in the New Year's Six. And because, honestly, a 10-2 SEC team getting left out of the New Year's Six is weird to me. But it is what it is. Like I said, I would be pro-citrus in this situation. It was ugly and we didn't play to our potential, but at least come Sunday, I can just smile and shake Steak fans at church without needing anything to say. They'll probably avoid you, Marcus Hopkins. They will probably ignore you. Trace Buffkin, man, that was terrible. We should have put 50 points. Yeah, it was a missed opportunity. I think that's the best way you can describe the game tonight, was a missed opportunity, but you still won 3 out of 4. You still won 10 games in a season. All of that are major deals for Ole Miss football moving forward. I hope we don't pay too much for Stop it, Jake. It's not necessary. Suntarian will be fine. Got to be able to throw the ball in a bowl game. Yeah, I'm telling you, do not judge anything over the last 2 games going into a bowl game. There's basically a spring practice that has to happen before bowl practices. Just chill out. That's not going to matter. We should have played the quick game like we did LSU. Thank you, Gary Rasco. I was all about that. By the way, the Hyde play to Caleb Priestcorn on the short yardage, if you listen to the podcast, I talked about that either Tuesday or Wednesday as something that if Ole Miss did, the wide receiver would be running wide open. That ended up being the winning play. I'm pretty excited about that. And, I will pat myself on the back like crazy. We do not – Jake, calm down, buddy. Calm down. It's going to be okay. Who calls the play, Weis or Kiffin? The answer to that one is yes. Most of the time it's Charlie Weis. We move too fast for Lane Kiffin to be the offensive coordinator. Lane Kiffin cannot take over play calling. It has to be Charlie Weis, because without it, everything slows down and it looks different. So it's Charlie Weis doing most of the work. Lane Kiffin interjects. He has a play sheet. He has a headset, all of that. 10-2, next 11-2. First 11-win season in Ole Miss football history is on the table. That is pretty awesome. We've got bragging rights for the next year. Hottie Toddy from Olive Branch. That's from Gail Hanna. Yes. 3 out of 4 wins against Mississippi State. You get them in Oxford next year with a new head football coach. You will have an unbelievably talented team, and they will have the memory of kind of being shut down in this game. It's probably going to stick in their craw. I do hope they do not get overly hyped up like some said they were. I don't care about New Year's 6. Let's go to the bowl. Go at the bowl we get. Rest up, heal up, 11-2. And New Year's 6, like I said, I want the prestige for Ole Miss fans. Ole Miss refuses to beat any decent team badly, but they beat them. They're winning 10 out of 12 games in the season. Joey Horns from Olive Branch. Thank you for watching, Joey. Mike Biggs, gaining 6 yards needs to be enough. Absolutely right, Stephen. I was shouting that during the game. Yeah, this offense gets arrogant from time to time. Whenever they feel like they should dominate, they want to kill shots every single play. Staying on schedule becomes a real thing. Run a wind route, run a replace route, run hitches, do things to get the defensive linemen and the linebackers, Watson and Jet Johnson, going side to side. This just wasn't a part of the offense. It was honestly like, hey, we're better than you are, so we're going to do what we want to do. And we won the game, so I guess theoretically they were right. They just didn't look good doing it. How thin is our O-line? I don't know that they're thin. They're definitely inexperienced. We go so fast, there's not a lot of changing that happens on the offensive line, period. It's just one of those things. Ole Miss needs to figure out how to rebuild better than Georgia and Alabama. Jeff Ferguson on that one. Yeah, this is a process. We can't skip steps. We're getting to the point where high school recruiting is getting a little bit better. You can't skip steps, in my opinion. Eventually, you will get to that point. You got to keep knocking on the door, and eventually it will open. That's the way it works. Why have quarterback depth when Kiffin makes him play hurt? I don't think Kiffin makes him do anything. I think it's just impossible to take that kid out of the ball game. He's just tough as nails. I think he deserves a ton of respect. Gary Rasco, with Judkins as a beast, yes, he was a manimal tonight. Absolutely untackleable, tackleable. Without him, Ole Miss loses the football game to Mississippi State. Everybody's bitching we're 10-2. Yes, but two things can be true. We can be unbelievably elated that Ole Miss has a chance to have a 1-of-1 regular season and win 11 ball games. And we can be upset that we missed an opportunity against Mississippi State and didn't look particularly well. Good. Just kind of is what it is. Ole Miss can beat anybody in the nation but Alabama and Georgia. Yeah, they've proved that. 10-2, hottie damn toddy. Charles Vaught with that one. Willis, we haven't ran it up on anyone, even when healthy. The story this year is that the offense took a step back and the defense took a step up. I think the offense is actually better than it was a year ago. So the offense just didn't take the step up that we were hoping for. And theoretically, that step should happen in the next year, and the defense is going to get a lot better as year 2 happens as well. Mike Biggs, you might add Ohio State, Jeff Ferguson. Yeah, they're pretty good. No quit stance, no hooks, no cross over the middle. Yeah, no quick game tonight. Not even throwing the ball to the Jordan Watkins. No jet sweeps that I can remember. I mean, nothing that would make the defensive line vary their tempo to where you've got 2.5 seconds to get to the quarterback. We need to figure something out about it. Even that was gone. That was just a weird look. Kanzu to you. It's an SEC win. Dart was hurt. Okay, quarterback should have finished in the 4th. Yeah, like I said, Ole Miss won the game, got their 10th win, and now we are probably looking at Iowa, but who knows? Who knows? Does anybody know anything of Bentley? Like I said, I did not see him go in the game. It looked like he was holding his ribs. He took a pretty good shot in the game. I imagine he's got 4 weeks. He'll be back for the bowl game and all that. He'll be fine. Dardanelle straight. Okay. Yeah, that's a World War I thing, I think. Let's see. They beat Vandy like 33-6. Willis. Let's see. This was state Super Bowl. Yeah, I do not do the anything can happen in these games and throw the records out the window in these games. I do not play that game. Ole Miss was in the game they were in because the offense played like crap, not necessarily because of anything that Mississippi State did or anything ghost-wise in this rivalry. The fact of the matter is, people talked all week about anything can happen in this game, and Ole Miss probably let that happen, and Mississippi State's level went up, their level went down, and it got difficult. It got weird until the fourth quarter, whenever that Hyde route by the way, like I said, I'm just patting myself on the back on that one. Connor Quinn says, love the win, but Dart has got to get a feel for how to move and manipulate the pocket. Not much pocket presence. I think he's fine. I think he's injured. I think he's hurt. I think this was a situation when Chris Lowe was pointed out that Jaxson Dart didn't play or whatever like that. I think there was more truth on that one than we normally get whenever Lane basically lies to Chris Lowe and Chris Lowe puts it out. Ole Miss won the game. And that was the most important part. Is Zachary Franklin done? I do not know. Theoretically, he could transfer away, but he could also stay here and be the number one receiver next season because injury is the reason he didn't play a lot this year. Joshua Trippett, the Dardanelles is where the Anzacs were thrown to the wolves at Gallipoli by the Brits in World War I. Okay, that's in Turkey or around there. Okay, got you. I'm following now. Lane is absolutely the man. Nobody has a successful record like Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss other than Johnny Vaught. He's winning like 80% of his games if you take away the COVID year. I get that everybody is upset, and you should be, honestly. Ole Miss had a chance to just completely boat race that team, and nobody would have been surprised. Not a single person, not even Mississippi State people. And you just couldn't do it. And you didn't do it. And like style points is just a thing, but never overlook the fact that Ole Miss is 10-2. Never overlook that Lane Kiffin is the second most successful coach since Vaught. If you overlook that and you want to limit what he does, that's kind of on you, in my opinion. Mike Biggs says, absolutely, Jake Mitchell. Wayne Priest, was Wade even targeted? Yes, he was targeted a couple of times, but it was down the field. Corral was 10 times the downfield passing that Dart is. Jake, you got to take it easy, buddy. You can't come at this game like Ole Miss lost to Georgia. You can't. Because all that is going to do is affect the other people the way they look at you. There's a spam commercial I just saw on TV. They're doing commercials for spam now. It's nuts. Dead Sox, the new Judkins NIL socks are live. Jason Simmons with that. Here's his Lane Train sock that he sent as well. You can get that on there. And they have the NIL subscription that is available on their site as well, deadsoxy.com. And also you can see that they have a Saturday six-pack that was matched up to the colors that Ole Miss wore this year. They do a fantastic job at Dead Soxy. Give them guys a look. Just fantastic. Jason has been unbelievably good to the SEC After Dark channel as well as this one, and he does a fantastic job for me. Thank you very much, Jason. If you need anything from me, just let me know. Trace Buffkin says, who do you think will end up playing in the bowl game? Right now, it looks like it's Iowa at the moment. That'd be the Citrus Bowl opponent. But if Iowa loses to Nebraska, it could be somebody else. I mean, it's not a home run that Iowa just keeps winning. The over-under in the Nebraska game is like 24 points right now. Like it's a record of unders. It's absolutely nuts. Stop eating cheese. I'd rather watch Ole Miss as an underdog than as a favorite. It's no. I would rather watch it as a favorite because I enjoy trolling opposing fan bases. Even though whenever they come back, everybody loves to tell. One of my favorite things is people love to tell me I told you so. So there's tweets and everything like that gets bookmarked, and there's so many people just ready to go because I have a personality that people just want to say I told you so to. So I feed into that a little bit and get a little engagement and a lot of people watching the show and stuff like that. Should be fun. Top 10 in the nation is the goal after the bowl season from Jeff Ferguson. Yeah, it should, honestly. Ole Miss is going to be at least at a minimum 12th going into the bowl game. So we'll see. I'd rather watch Ole Miss as anything. I agree with you, Luke Shaw. Charles Vault. Mississippi State was doing a lot of lip smacking and trash talking. And oh my God, trying to fight our player. Yeah. Okay. If you're a State fan watching this, earmuffs, okay? When State has a clearly inferior football team than Ole Miss, they know their only avenue is to get Ole Miss out of their game, and they are willing to do whatever they can to make that happen, including lip snacking. I think the targeting was a cheap shot, and it was because it was done intentionally. If you watch what happens, it looks intentional the way it happened. It looked like it was designed potentially to hurt Jaxson Dart. I don't know if that's the case. It might have been a pure coincidence, but it looked like a just home run targeting call of people just dropping your head and leading like a missile. So weird stuff happens when State is clearly the inferior football team. Gary Raskell, Pete Golding called a good game. Pete Golding, I think that game, Mississippi State ended up with 304 yards. Ole Miss was 4 yards away from holding their opponents 6 times under 300 in the season. That's interesting. Connor Quinn, Dart ran into pressure or two due to not stepping up in the pocket and trying to step out. It did. But it's because he knew what was coming in the middle of the field. It's almost a situation where I don't even want to blame him because he knew Mississippi State was double A gap blitzing most of the night. Driftwood play calling sucks, but it's not changing. It won't change, but we'll see what happens. I think if they go in there with the mindset that they had against A&M, if they go in with the mindset that they had against LSU, if they go in with the mindset that they had in those games, you're going to see a different team than the one that lined up against Alabama and the one that played tonight. It's just the way it is. And they just showed the high play highlight on ESPN. And yes, like I said, I'm patting myself on the back. I called that this week, and that's weird that I called that play and that they did it. So that is awesome. If y'all are listening to the show, thank you very much. Hotty Toddy State's defense was up for the game, but our offense just played down to the competition. What a win is a win. That is a perfect comment, Paul Patrick. That is a perfect comment, and I think that is the way that everybody should take what happened. Still a good win. Ole Miss is still 10-2. Ole Miss is still playing for 11-2. By the way, in the first 2 seasons, having 15-plus rushing TDs in SEC history, Quinshon Judkins has 31. Herschel Walker had 33. Quinshon Judkins has a bowl game to break that record. He's chasing Herschel again. I don't think we need to underestimate how special this is for Quinshon Judkins. The bowl game is the key to next season. Yes, definitely. I'm so glad you didn't have to pull the flamethrower out. Yes, and I was absolutely about to do it. Yes, the flamethrower was ready to go. Then they call that hide play. Caden Prescorn scores the touchdown, and all of a sudden, I'm all in my feels, feeling great. The game 17-7 and is basically over as well. Mike's Big says, Steven, your analysis is impeccable as usual. Take what the defense gives you. We would have had scored 35 points if we'd have done that. Yet the problem that Ole Miss gets into offensively, and it's not necessarily a Charlie Weis thing necessarily, but I think that he can fall into it as well. He's just a young play caller. But the one thing that Ole Miss needs to get better at is taking the quick stuff and changing the tempo and making them move around, because it unlocks stuff deeper down the field. And all of a sudden, this game is 45-7 as opposed to 17-7, just by being not necessarily a little bit more conservative, but it's just a way that you can do it. That's just my thought on that one. Our bowl record is our favorite stat of ours, and we've lost 2 in a run. We need this bowl win. Luke Shaw with that one. Bentley was punched in the side by a state player after he got up from the pile. Wonder about the pile. Yeah, this is always just a terribly dirty football game. It just really is. They joke about it before the game starts, but it is a dirty, dirty football game. And it has been for 50 years at this point, maybe even longer than that. No less than 3 obvious blocks in the back as well. Yes. Fatal. I hope that's all it was. And Dart was just hurt, so they didn't play well, because we just can't run the ball and we're not able to throw the ball in a game. And just saying, good win for our state, though. Yeah, it's a big deal for Ole Miss. It's always nice whenever they don't get to display the Egg Bowl trophy. It just is. I really do hope we don't play Iowa, because that game is going to be so boring. The final score is going to be like 21-9. I do want a bowl game with somebody like Texas to see if we can hang with the elite. Yeah, my thing is I want Ole Miss to have a bowl game in the New Year's Six, because of the prestige of being able to say that you've been to 4 out of 10 New Year's Six games. I mean, that going to 40% of all NY6 games tells you that Ole Miss is in a different spot than they would have been. They went to 2 under one coach, 2 under another. That would be a fantastic talking point for Ole Miss fans. And yeah, I want that for that. But selfishly, I want the Citrus Bowl because it's right down the road from my house. And the Texas game would have all the eyeballs, by the way. If Ole Miss played Texas and Arch Manning and all of that, every one of the eyeballs would be on that game. The bowl game is the one we got to win for next year. I think they need to play well. Winning will be great. If they win, they get the bump of being like ranked like 7th in the country to start 2024, with we're assuming Jaxson coming back and Quinshon coming back and all of that. So if that happens, they're going to be like well into the top 10. That's what a bowl win wins. If Ole Miss loses to Iowa in the bowl game, they might be 13th or 14th preseason. It's just a perception thing as well. Either way, if you win games, you're going to be fine where you are. Matt Corral was tough. Yes, he was. He was a very tough quarterback. He was not as tough as Jaxson Dart, and he was not as tough as Matt Luke. And that is not an insult at Matt Corral. I think we got a minor concussion and a shoulder injury. Think so, maybe. 2 blocks in the back on the punt return. Brian Woods said that. That is absolutely the case. Shout out to Judkins on the season. I said that this year he might have 1,200 yards and 15 touchdowns and actually have a better year than he had a year ago. And that is coming to fruition as well. Was Matt Luke on the sideline tonight? If Matt Luke was on the sideline, they'd be up for this game. You realize the Ole Miss has won 4 out of the last 5 games in Davis Wade Stadium in Starkville. They've won 4 out of 5 in Starkville. The only one they lost was the piss and the miss that Elijah Moore pissed in the end zone and Matt Luke that led to Lane Kiffin beating Ole Miss. That was the difference between having 5 straight wins at Davis Wade Stadium. That was kind of interesting when I saw that as well. Is Jeremy James receiving NIL? He should be fine for his countless holding calls. They're doing something. They're going to have to figure out a way in the offseason to coach this a little bit better, because basically everybody has started turning us in as a chronic offender of holding, and the officials have started to pile on. I just hope if MSU doesn't go to a bowl game, they shouldn't. They don't deserve to. Jeff Ferguson, love your show. Thank you very much, Jeff. I love doing the show. So much so that we're over an hour right now, and I'm still going. And I'll probably wrap it up here in just a second, but I just want to get through the chat. I think he got a minor concussion, a minor shoulder injury during the game. And I kind of agree with that as well. Let's see. Lose game without Q tonight. Ben Gates said that. Is that Benjamin Franklin Gates? No, I'm just kidding. That was a national treasure joke. Yes, without Q tonight, Ole Miss loses. They went undefeated at home again. They're 10-2 of the season. They kick ass in the transfer portal, makes great teams. Let's see. Brian Woods, Billy Bob Willis. And this is absolutely the case. I've had way too many people say that I sound like Billy Bob Thornton for it not to be true. My wife, honestly, likes Billy Bob Thornton, but she can't hear that in my voice. And I guess it's just because she hears it every day. 10-2 is great. I remember 13 years with no bowl game in the 70s with King Cooper, then Steve Sloan. It's been a great year. Last game of Steve Sloan was my first game. That's where I start. That's where my journey begins as an Ole Miss fan. Personally, I think we play our best game in the bowl game. It matters what rank we finish yet this year with a 12-team playoff next year. If we finish top 10, we get the benefit of the doubt next year. Yeah, that is exactly my point. I do think next year will be important as well. Frank Wade, watching from McGee, Mississippi. Thank you, Frank. I was McGee High Trojans class of 1994. Thank you. An SEC win is an SEC win, and it absolutely is. Hey, Ole Miss game, state game, throw out the statistics. Thank you, Jeff. I laughed at that. That's pretty good. I don't understand. You're complaining, sir? That's all you've done? I'm assuming this isn't about me, because if that's the case, you haven't listened to the show. Never taking off my juice shirt and lane socks. Absolutely. State played well, and that linebacker is for real. Nathaniel Watson is an NFL player. He's an NFL linebacker. And the fact that, I don't know, we just kind of played heads up, mano a mano against him. That was kind of problematic, knowing exactly what they were going to do. State played a hell of a game. People forgot they had a great defense before the turnover. Defensive line, they had a lot of want to, but like I said before, and I always say, want to doesn't matter at all. Ole Miss, we had a wonderful season. God bless us. Yeah, 10-2. There's nothing to sneeze at 10-2. And I will argue with that all the time. Dead Soxy says, hotty toddy, super proud of our guys. 10 wins, 2 out of the last 3 is darn good. We're in playoff contention next year, and I'm already pumped. Absolutely. And Pete Golding gets another year. Seabass 86 says, we want PSU. You know, I'd kind of like to play Penn State, genuinely. We get Iowa with some ease. PSU is bold, but we can take them. We absolutely deserve a New Year's Six bowl. We just had some down games. Ole Miss fans have a lot to be thankful for. Yeah, any Ole Miss fans that's down about this season at all, I've got nothing for you. Okay? It's one thing to talk and nitpick about results and things that makes us happy and unhappy and things like that. It's another thing to not be happy about the direction of where the season went, and not to be happy about exactly how it's perceived. Now, also don't agree that anybody that is upset and anybody that's complaining, it's problematic, because they're the person that's like, either you're all in or you're all out, and that's not the case. That doesn't exist. I can't believe the season is over, man. So proud of our team. Rob Trigg, the season is not over. There's still one more game. Kalen McGee, I hate listening to Jordan Rogers. Yeah, it's like they sat in and had Will Rogers, like they just had a hard on for Will Rogers tonight. And I get the fact that Will Rogers was a senior, and he was really actually, Jake Wimberly said he's probably playing his last game at Mississippi State. But Jordan Rodgers just had a hard on for him tonight. And honestly, he didn't deserve it. I just don't think that Will Rogers is that good of a quarterback. It's another situation where he wants it really bad. And it's like, who gives a crap? Lots of people out there want it really bad. People need to appreciate being the third best team in the SEC 2 out of the last 3 years. We're set up to take that next step in the next 2 years. This was a foundation stabilizing year. Joshua Chiplet, you were exactly right on that. That is an excellent post. And I wish I could star that somehow and just leave it up. But yes, this is a process, but Ole Miss is in a place that they haven't been in my lifetime with a team that is more talented than they had in my lifetime. Ivy, happy Thanksgiving, Stephen Hottie Toddy. Happy Thanksgiving, Ivy. I hope everything is going well. Driftwood, thrilled for the win. Just hate that we struggled with a bad team without a head coach. Play calling is concerning. Yes, but they'll fix it. They'll get it all right. We had one of the toughest schedules coming into 2023 and came out 10-2. I will take it. We only lost in Athens and in Tuscaloosa. And there's not a single person watching this stream right now that if you were told before the season you're going to go 10-2 and you're going to lose at Georgia and at Tuscaloosa, everybody would say yes. We will get our tackles back for the bowl game. I hope so. I hope Micah Pettis is back, but we should have Jaden Williams as well. William Bronson, the way that Lane was after the game made me think his ass. No, he's not going to A&M. You're wishful thinking. JJ Pegues was on fire tonight. Pretty fantastic. Caleb Orsman. I really wanted those style points. Yeah, tonight was a missed opportunity. That's really the only way to put it. We're going to try and get a couple of more chat things in here. And if I don't get to you, I am terribly sorry. But we're in an hour and 7 right now. And honestly, I want to go to game and enjoy the football that is ready to go on Friday and Saturday as well. Should be good. I'll just kind of skim through and get the best comments. Matt's YouTube, Sanders should have played more. Yeah, Sanders should have played more. If Jaxson was as hurt as he looked, Sanders probably should have played more. Everyone this year played us their best game. That's an important step. Georgia and Alabama, every team has Georgia and Alabama as their Super Bowl. Every year. They get up for them. It just doesn't matter. You need to get to the point where it just doesn't matter. State really got up for Ole Miss. It just doesn't matter. Ole Miss didn't even play well. Just didn't matter. Let's see. James Mendoza, is there any truth to Jeff Lebby to state? Jeff Lebby will take any job that is offered to him. Any job that is offered to him, he will take it because of what that means. He is an Art Briles disciple. Getting a head job is not going to come around very often. If State offers him the job, he's going to say yes, even before they offer him the amount of money. The flip side of it is, I'm not worried about Jeff Lebby. Let's see. Brent Will said Jaxson Dart earned the right to play. If he can go, he should. His performance was better than stats. People calling for Sanders need to remember who won the games. It wasn't Sanders. No, we're not calling for a situation to where Dart needs to be benched because of performance. And Dart has earned the right to stay. And like I said, Dart was in the game because he wasn't coming out of the game. But if Dart was as hurt as he looked like he was hurt, and he took a mean, nasty targeting shot in the game and he missed one play, I think everybody was just a little bit concerned of how that looked. It wasn't a performance thing with Jaxson Dart. Let's see. You know what? Lane will bring a national championship to Ole Miss. Jeff Ferguson says that. And it could get close. I compare what Ole Miss is going through right now as Clemson's ascendancy. It's similar. And that is a unique thing. I do hope everybody has a good night. We are going to get out of here right now. This has been a lot of fun. We've been well over an hour. Listen to all these shows around Ole Miss football. Take in all the information, all the perspectives. You know us, we're all about perspectives and commentary. But right now, I do want to let you know that thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen. Every day tomorrow evening, we will talk to Tom Vanderford for some additional reaction to tonight's post-game show. And then we'll take the weekend off. I hope everybody understands that. For your second listen, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. For your second listen, go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 stream channel. For those of you on YouTube, we will send you there right now. Enjoy this weekend. Happy Thanksgiving. And of course, hotty toddy.